The mainstream media, in typical fashion, they focused on the real threat, Islamophobia. Salon.com ran this headline, quote, after the New York City terror attack, Fox News leans into nationalism and Islamophobia. North Country Public Radio says this headline, art as a way to resist negative images and Islamophobia. Splinter News did this. NBC News did this from NBC. Muslim Americans brace for backlash after New York attack. They're bracing. That's the story. Not the attack that just happened, but the bracing that's going to happen for the inevitable backlash that inevitably never happens. Anchors and writers from MSNBC, Teen Vogue, The Guardian, on and on and on, use the same Islamophobia line. New York Times, early reporting on the attack, refused to report the language properly. They wouldn't do it. They would not use the phrase Allahu Akbar, which is the war cry that the terrorist shouted when he had finished his attack. Instead, the Times used the phrase God is great, which is an okay sort of mistranslation of that phrase into English. Their news alert headline read, "The motorist yelled, 'God is great' in Arabic," officials said. CNN did exactly the same thing. Their lower third reporting on the attack said, "Suspect was yelling 'God is great' in Arabic." The Associated Press did this in April when they reported that a Muslim terrorist yelled, "God is great." Best of all, here is former journalist Jake Tapper's take on the jihadi battle cry.
They heard this driver yelling Allahu Akbar during this incident, which is now leading authorities to believe that this is as a result that this is now a terrorism case. And I'm just getting an update now. The FBI is taking over this case because it appears now that this is terrorism.
The Arabic chant, Allah Akbar, God is great, sometimes said under the most beautiful of circumstances, and too often we hear of it being said in moments like this.
It's beautiful. The most beautiful of circumstances. That's the story, right? That's the first thing you should say when reacting to that news. The terrorists screamed a beautiful phrase that has also denoted Muslim holy war for 14 centuries. Look, he said that it was used in bad circumstances too. But the first thing that we should note, the important point here, is that the phrase is also used in nice circumstances sometimes. And sure, that might be true. Contrary to popular belief, the term Allahu Akbar does not appear in the Quran, in the Muslim holy book. Rather, it appears in the Hadith, which reports the actions and sayings of Muhammad. It also doesn't mean God is great. It means God is greater or God is greatest, probably more precisely translated. And sure, it's a phrase used in times of joy. It's used in times of distress, joy, birth, death, holy festivals, on and on. Sort of misses the point, doesn't it? Because Allahu Akbar is the ubiquitous battle cry of Muslim terrorists that we've seen for decades and decades. In the notes of the terrorists who flew the planes on September 11th, we're talking about a Muslim terrorist attack here. Here is a relevant appearance of the phrase Allahu Akbar in the Hadith. Quote, "The Prophet set out for Khaybar and reached it at night. He used not to attack if he reached the people at night till the day broke. So, when the day dawned, the Jews came out with their bags and spades. When they saw the Prophet, they said, 'Muhammad and his army.' The Prophet said, 'Allahu Akbar,' and Khaybar is ruined. For whenever we approach a nation, it est an enemy to fight, then it will be a miserable morning for those who have been warned," end quote. Now, Andrew Klavan, who never gets into Twitter spats, despite my telling him how fun they are, he pointed this out to Jake Tapper on Twitter. He pointed out to Tapper that he was basically saying, there are good people on both sides, aren't there, folks? The thing that the mainstream media excoriated Trump for saying in the wake of Charlottesville. Tapper defended his statement, then he went further and he accused Drew of lying. So Drew responded, he said, "All sorts of things can be said at weddings and births. It's an inane point that purposely begs the question, the nature of our enemy." Tapper, unhingedly and bizarrely, continued to call Andrew Klavan a liar. But of course he provided no evidence for that accusation because Jake Tapper is a Democrat hack who plays a journalist on a fictional television program. This does, however, make clear a key factor in the mainstream media's recent self-immolation, which is their abuse of language. We're living in an age marked, defined by language that is not clear and direct, but of euphemisms. Words that make harsh things seem mild, bad truths appear good, they make clear events seem obscure. Democrats just last week ran an ad against Virginia gubernatorial candidate Ed Gillespie depicting a Republican truck mowing down children of ethnic minority. Here it is.
Is this what Donald Trump and Ed Gillespie mean by the American dream? Latino Victory Fund paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertisement.
That's the threat, huh? That's what we're worried about. We're worried about Tea Partiers. We're worrying about the Gadsden flag flying on a truck that's mowing
after
down.
the last 2 days, Michael, we're going to see an increase on the cool down period of trucks.
That's right. That's what we're seeing, right? That's before our eyes. Not quite. The American people aren't stupid. We know that the terrorists didn't scream, "God is great." We know what war looks like. We know what peace looks like. We know which ideas and vessels for those ideas threaten our lives and our civilization. The more the mainstream media insist that our eyes are lying, the less credibility they'll have.